Personal accounts are an integral component of understanding the implications and causes of the Holocaust, as well as the experiences of its victims and survivors. As part of this presentation, I will be analysing the written testimony of two Holocaust survivors, Elie Wiesel and Eva Kor. I will also be analysing the audiovisual interview and testimony of Rena Gellison. Trauma, language and vocabulary, survivor guilt, and memory will all be taken into consideration when analysing the three survivor testimonies. As an Auschwitz survivor and Romanian Jew, Elie Wiesel's preface to his memoir Night highlights some of the limitations that vocabulary and language present in the accuracy and understanding of survivor testimonies. Elie Wiesel reflects, "I had many things to say, I did not have the words to say them. Painfully aware of my limitations, I watched helplessly as language became an obstacle." After reading this statement, it is important to consider whether survivor testimonies will ever adequately elucidate the suffering and trauma that is now instilled in Holocaust survivors. If survivors cannot sufficiently verbalize or express their experiences, is the retelling of their suffering genuinely empowering or simply a feeling of obligation to other victims and our history books? Elie Wiesel's preface opens up room for a substantial amount of skepticism about his testimony. Without undermining his circumstances, Elie Wiesel makes clear that his testimony does not adequately describe what he went through. It is also important to consider that throughout his memoir, Elie Wiesel refers to the guilt and pain of losing his sister during the Holocaust. Survivor guilt is the term used to describe severe feelings of guilt after surviving an event that others did not. It generally does not make logical sense. Elie Wiesel survived whilst his sister did not. However, this is not Wiesel's fault. It is possible for survivor guilt to distort an individual's perception and therefore their testimony. Elie Wiesel identifies many challenges with his testimony, which indicates a high level of insight. However, it does not address the problem of guilt. This could be because he does not recognize the potential for his guilt to make inaccurate his personal account. Eva Kor and her identical twin sister Miriam were held at Auschwitz-Birkenau under the control and supervision of the notorious Josef Mengele. Well known for his uncompromising scientific experiments on Jews, specifically twins, Eva and Miriam were in constant danger of falling victim to one of his experiments. Eva's memoir, Surviving the Angel of Death, is presented with an amount of humour and sarcasm. Whilst it is important to not invalidate the memories and experiences of Eva, having been born in 1934, she was not yet 5 years old at the beginning of the war and only 11 years old at time of liberation. Her memoir was published 64 years after liberation in 2009. Whilst Eva's memories are vivid, it is possible that they are inaccurate due to her age and the amount of time between the event and the writing of her memoir. Eva also recounts feelings of happiness, low anxiety, and relief whilst living under Mengele's control. The question then needs to be asked, could Eva have created false memories to appease the trauma and suffering that she experienced during the Holocaust? Eva's story also ends quite differently to those of other Holocaust survivors. Eva publicly forgave a former SS member, Oskar Groening. This was followed by a plethora of criticism from other Holocaust survivors. This then begs the question, can one story of survival be applied to other survivors? How well can survivors' personal accounts represent the experiences of those who have not had the opportunity to tell their stories? In March 1942, Rena Gellison was on the first transport to Auschwitz, where she spent over 3 years with her sister Danka. Whilst she has both written and audiovisual testimony, this presentation will be focusing solely on her audiovisual account. Rena was an adolescent when World War II began, which means her memories may be more accurate than those of Eva Kor. The fact that she experienced the Holocaust with her sister could both help and hinder the reliability of her testimony. If her and her sister share similar memories, then it is likely they are more accurate. However, it is possible that Rena has taken on board some of Danka's memory and made them her own. In other words, Rena's testimony may be more open to suggestibility as a result of hearing her sister's memories. To conclude this presentation, I would like to end with a quote from Elie Wiesel's memoir. Deep down, the witness knew then, as he does now, that his testimony would not be received. After all, it deals with an event that sprang from the darkest zone of man. Only those who experienced Auschwitz know what it was. Others will never know. No matter how much we try to understand the Holocaust, we will never be able to truly comprehend the experiences of its victims and survivors.